was 17, I ran away from home and from everything I had ever known. I was sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate. They used to laugh at me, their children called me names, I would run and hide.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Spoonful of Comfort. I am honored for the privilege of your time. I am Claudine Jackson. I am the host of A Spoonful of Comfort, reminding you and me that we can give comfort as well as look for comfort. We're looking for who can comfort us. Well, we can also look for who we can comfort. And ladies who are mothers, we're always comforting and nurturing someone. So a spoonful of comfort is the minimum amount of comfort we can give anybody. So remember, you have a spoonful of comfort too. My son, if you've seen the show before, I know you've heard me talk about my son who is handicapped by autism. Even he wants to give comfort. He cannot read or write or talk or live independently. But if you say to him, I need a hug, he gives you a smile and a big hug. So he even wants to give comfort. To the audience, I want to say grace be to you and peace from God the Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. And may grace and peace be multiplied unto you. Also, may prosperity and health be multiplied unto you. These are the things that are blessings in our life that sometimes when we think everything is going wrong and I don't have anything to be thankful for, we have these kinds of things to be thankful for. There's always something to be thankful for, and I'm telling you as a person who wasn't thankful at times when I thought I had too many problems and too much sorrow. So I'm making up for it now. The Lord knows I'm thankful and that I am grateful for all that he has done for me. I will bless the Lord. I will never forget the glorious things he has done for me and is still doing. I want to tell you how you can reach me. You can always call in. They'll put the call in number. You can always call in. I don't mind being interrupted. I know I get on a roll talking, but I don't mind being interrupted. I would love to hear from you. I share my favorite scriptures with you. I share scriptures that helped me get through a lot of my trials and tribulations. So if you have a scripture that you want to share with me or a comment, if you're the parent of a child with a handicap, I would like to hear from you. That way we can have a conversation. It's not just me talking to you. You can talk to me. In 07 and 08, I was a member of the Detroit Free Press Talkback Board. And they would write the editorials, the Sunday editorials, and they would send them to us on Wednesday. They had people in every age range in every part of the Detroit community. I thought that was wonderful. I really enjoyed being a part of that. So I like talk back. You can talk back to me. You can give me your comments and your thoughts. Also, tell me suggestions for what you would want to hear about. You can also reach me by email at Jackson Claudreen, CLAUDREEN, at sbcglobal.net, Jackson Claudreen at sbcglobal.net. The Purvis Jackson Foundation, you can reach at Post Office Box 04422, Detroit, Michigan 48204. The Purvis Jackson Foundation helps handicapped children. You know, there are a lot of needy people in the world, but poor children with handicaps are some of the neediest. having been the parent of a child with a disability for so many years, because my son will be 43 July 1st, been the parent of a child with a disability for so many years, I know what parents go through. I know they need help. Even the wealthy parents need help, but they can afford help. They can afford to do what they want to for their child. So that's why the Purvis Foundation, helps poor children with handicaps. We pick up some of the slack from, there are all kinds of agencies that help children with handicaps, but we can get like paying utilities and rent and getting immediate needs met, which is one of the things that the Purvis Foundation is proud to be able to do. I am one of the more fortunate people in the world, and doesn't God want those of us who are more fortunate to help the less fortunate? I mean, I was so depressed for so long about my son's condition and my poor son and the condition that he was in, but then I thought about it. There's a lot that he doesn't have going for him, but what he did have going for him was me and his father, because we loved him and we always wanted what was best for him. And even during the years that we were separated, we still wanted what was best for Purvis Jr. Now, I don't know if you saw the show last week, but the show last week, I'm just going to give you a quick recap of it. It's about a song that's coming out, a song that I wrote that my husband sang that has never been released. There are 3 bass singers who did the show last week. Purvis Jackson, who is the bass singer of the Spinners, who is my husband, who is deceased, was replaced by Jesse Peck. Jesse Peck is the bass singer of the Spinners now. So Jesse Peck, Trey Cruz, a young man that Purvis was mentoring, and Paris Delane, who had a recording studio. They got together and added their voices to what Purvis had already done. Purvis took a poem that I wrote called Almost, sang it with a reggae beat, made it into a happy song. They decided they wanted something from Purvis on their album as a tribute to Purvis. So I sent them some of his original material, and lo and behold, the song that they chose was not written by Purvis, it was written by me. So I'm really looking forward to the song coming out. It'll be coming out next month. They were guests on the show last week. They will be guests on the show again when the song comes out, and it's called Almost. And it came from my book of poems, Let There Be Light. And I'm going to read the poem to you. I read it last week. I'm going to read it again because I'm so proud that Almost has been resurrected. Almost. I almost had some money because I almost won. I almost missed the rainstorm. I almost saw the sun. I almost saw my ship come in, but it was not my time. I even almost had a love, and he was almost mine. I almost thought that I could smile. I almost stopped my crying. I almost said, well, I give up. I'm sick of all this trying. Well, almost is so far away, and almost is so near that I can almost touch it. My day is almost here. So almost, be listening for it. I'll present it to you next month when it comes out, but it's a proof that God is still working miracles in the world. I'm going to take a short break. Please stay with me during the break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about suffering and renewal. Thank you so much for staying with me for a spoonful of comfort. I want to give a shout out to Ronald Stevenson. He was a friend of my husband's for many years. We kind of lost contact because he left Detroit and moved someplace down south. But Ronald, if you're watching the show, and I heard that you are, hi, thanks for calling. I'm going to get that book to you. I know I've been remiss in getting a copy of Inspired by Autism to you, and thank you so much for wanting the book. Inspired by Autism is the book I wrote about my experiences raising Purvis Jr., and you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it right here at WHPR. And if you come on Tuesday around 2, I will autograph it for you. I want to talk a little bit about when we are suffering. Suffering is, you're not going to get through life without some kind of suffering. So Romans 8:18 says that the sufferings of the present day are not worthy to be compared to the glory which will be revealed in us. The sufferings of the present day are not worthy to be compared to the glory which will be revealed in us. That our failures, our disappointments, our heartaches, and our defeats, those are all the soil in which we've been planted in order to grow. And it doesn't feel like that when you're going through it, but there is a reason. And some of my suffering was self-induced because I felt so sorry for myself. I felt so sorry for my son, and I probably suffered a little more than I needed to because I just thought my life is changed, my life is over. Because when PJ came along, Purvis Jr., he came along in 1975, which was the year that the federal government started closing big institutions. Purvis Jr. would have been in an institution if he had come along in 74. But 75 was the year they quit closing the institutions. And I'm trying to find out who knows what to do with a child like this, because he had very, very challenging, disruptive behaviors, didn't sleep at night, screamed all night, a lot of behaviors that are familiar to parents of children with autism, which is one of the reasons that we have the foundation to help parents who are going through what I went through. So when you're suffering, they say that our cries are the rain, our smiles are the sunshine, and the mess that we take off of people is our fertilizer. So some of us have been well fertilized. Another thing about suffering is that God might not move the irritation, but he will help you grow past it. He will give you what you need to get past the irritation, or to change your outlook on what you're going through. I had to change my outlook. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale says that the attitude toward the fact is more important than the fact itself. So I had to change my attitude about autism. Instead of me feeling sorry for myself and sorry for my son, I had to come to the conclusion that I was the only mother he had, and I needed to get myself together in order to take care of him. And one of the things about suffering, you're going to be renewed. If you're going through suffering, you're going to be renewed. I want to share with you some of the renewal scriptures. Romans 12:2. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. If your mind is only on your troubles, it's hard. The answer is that when you think about your troubles, give them to God. God is waiting to take our burdens. He knows what we're going through. He knows what we need before we even ask. There are times I've asked God for something and got the answer almost before I could get it out. So be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Also, the 23rd Psalm. In the 23rd Psalm, he restores my soul. He restores my soul. So he's renewing our mind, restoring our soul. They that wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like an eagle. That's Isaiah 40:31. They will run and not be weary, and they will walk and not faint. So God renews our mind. He renews our soul. He removes our strength. He renews our strength. And 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, if any man be in Christ, or woman, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. So God is in the renewal business. He has the ability. God created us, and he can constantly and automatically recreate us. That's something else that I got from Norman Vincent Peale. And when I read that, my question was, can he really recreate us? But yes, he can. And the soul and the spirit that you have now is the same soul and the spirit that you had when you were a child. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. And when you feel like your strength is gone, Christ will give you more strength. I am a witness to the power and the glory and the beauty of the Lord, which is one of the reasons I decided to go ahead and do this show, because God has blessed me and renewed me many times, and I'm so thankful and grateful. And you too can be renewed if you feel like there's nothing to look forward to. Give yourself a chance. God can turn things around. Sometimes where we feel nothing is being done, where there's no work being done in the visible, where no visible results appear, God is doing a great work in the invisible. So if you do your best and you leave the rest to God, you won't be disappointed. God will have you in his hands. If you put your life in God's hands and you trust God's guidance and you leave the outcome to him, the outcome might not be what you expected. Like my outcome wasn't what I expected, but he gave me what I needed to deal with my outcome. And remember this, I serve a God who will provide. No matter the test, I will survive. I walk by faith and not by sight. I keep on walking into the light. And speaking of walking into the light, I want to share a poem that I wrote when I wasn't in the light, when I was suffering, and it's called The Bottom of the Spectrum. Now, the spectrum is the autism spectrum. I've shared the poem before, but I'm going to share it again. The autism spectrum, autism is a disability that has a wide spectrum. There are people that are brilliant on the higher end of the spectrum, and there are people on the lower end of the spectrum, such as my son, who cannot learn and cannot socialize and are very withdrawn. Autism comes from the word automatic, which means they're withdrawn. So my son is still somewhat withdrawn at his age. But From the Bottom of the Spectrum is a poem that was inspired by my son. From the bottom of the spectrum, I'm just laying on the ground. From the bottom of the spectrum, I'm so tired of being down. From the bottom of the spectrum, I am so tired of the night. From the bottom of the spectrum, I looked up and saw the light. From the bottom of the spectrum, I looked up and saw the sun shining down upon me, saying, your work is not yet done. From the bottom of the spectrum, now I sit and talk to you and glorify my Father because he brought me through. And he will do the same for you. now is the time. And I don't know if you remember the old song, Now is the Time. Now is the time to do what is right. Now is the time, for soon comes the night. Now is the time, while the sun's shining bright, to get right and serve the Lord. Now is the time for me to be busy because I am pushing 80 age-wise. And I'm so thankful that God has renewed my energy and renewed my strength so that even at pushing 80, I still can glorify him and be mobile in the community, still have my faculties, well, most of them, but some of the lessons that I've learned about getting a certain age, one of the things about pushing 80, I have never been a person who wanted to fight. And I remember one day someone was trying to start a fight with me, and I thought, I sure don't want to fight anymore. And just as clear as like the Lord spoke to me, well, then don't. So at this age, there's not much worth fighting for. Now, with autism, that's why I speak so much about autism and try to help people with autism. I don't want to fight, but I do want to be of use. No more shopping. I used to love to shop. I do not have to go shopping anymore because I already bought everything, and half of it I don't even know where it is. But I don't mind not shopping anymore. No more procrastinating. I was a great procrastinator, always putting things off. Now I know not to put things off anymore. I mean, who knows what time I have left. My husband did not make it past the age of 70, and here I am pushing 80. So with whatever time I have left, I want to be useful. When I was a little girl, when people reached my age, folks they were just kind of kicked to the curb. And I was a part of a Wayne State study on healthy aging. At age 72, I started this study. It was a 5-year study, and I finished it, so that lets you know I'm pushing 80. When I went in, the receptionist told me, she said, well, we thought that people past the age of 70 would not have teeth or hair and be hunched over. And I said, well, us 70-year-olds now, we can buy it. We can buy the teeth. We can buy the hair. So we buy it. So reaching a certain age now is not like it was when I was a little girl. The seniors nowadays, those of us in our 70s and 80s and even our 90s, we have redefined aging. So you can age and still have life left in you and still have things that you want to do and things that you can do. So I wanted to remind you about the 20 Grand reunion. We're going to have the 20 Grand reunion. It's going to be August the 11th at Burt's Warehouse, which is at 2727 Russell, right across from the Eastern Market. Now, a lot of 20 Grand people are no longer here, and that's why we want to do the 20 Grand reunion while those of us who are still here can enjoy it. It's going to be like a reunion. I don't know who all is still alive. I don't know who all is still able to get out, but if you used to come to the 20 Grand, come to the 20 Grand reunion and bring your children and grandchildren, because a lot of us have gotten older. Now, the 20 Grand had a 20-lane bowling alley. It had a club called the Fireside and a snack bar. This was on the lower level. On the upper level, it had a big ballroom called the Gold Room, where dances were held and cabarets were held. And it had another lounge called the Driftwood Lounge. And the Driftwood is where the entertainers performed. And big time entertainers came from all over the country to come to the Driftwood Lounge. So the Driftwood Lounge was a great place to be. And the 20 Grand has been gone, I think, from 1960 to 1980 were the 20 Grand's best years. So if you used to come to the 20 Grand, if you heard about the 20 Grand, if you just want to come and see, we're going to have the Miss 20 Grand ladies and the Mr. 20 Grand men, whoever's left. These are the people that used to keep the 20 Grand wheels rolling. So it's about time for me to go. I want to say about faith and what we've gone through. I thank him for my mountains. I thank him for my valleys. I thank him for the storms he brought me through. If we never ever had a problem, how would we know that God could solve them? How would we know what faith in God can do? So keep the faith. Tune in next week at 1:30 for A Spoonful of Comfort. And until then, may the power of God protect you. May the love of God enfold you. Goodbye.
When I was 17, I ran away from home and from everything I had ever known. I was sick and tired